Shri Gaura Govinda Maharaj ki jai. Tadaya Avirbhav Mahamohotsava ki jai. Dandavat pranam.
Dandavat pranam.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Welcome to Shri Shri Radha Vinodi Hari Mandir, Gopinath Bhavan, Shri Vrindavan Dham.
Jai ho.
Shri Gurudev ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Bal Gauri Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Gaura Govinda Swami Maharaj ki jai. Tadya Avirbhav Maha Mahotsava ki jai. Pati Pavan Shri Nityanand Prabhu ki jai. Prem Purushottam Shachinandan Gaur Hari ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Vinodi Hari Ju ki jai. Radha Raman Ju ki jai. Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Gaura Premanande
Hari Hari Bo. Dandavat pranam all Vaishnavas.
Dandavat pranam. So we will begin with Mangalacharan, page 1 of this book, Shri Dodiya Giti Gucha. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Pakakamalam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Pakakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavas Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagano Raghunatham Vitantam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Tarijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagano Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitansha Om Ajnanitimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Shriman Bhakti Vedantam Narayaniti Namine Shri Krishna Lila Katane Sudamsham Naudarya Madhurya Gunaishcha Yuktam Varam Varinyam Purusham Mahantam Narayanam Tvam Shirasham Namami Trinandinam Bhakta Shiromanim Cha Shri Krishna Padam Juditaika Vrindi Chaitanya Leelamrita Sarasaram Narayanam Tvam Satatam Prapadye Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedantam Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtadya Deshatarine Namo Vishnupadaya Gaura Presthaya Bhutale Shri Srimad Bhakti Pragya Keshava Niti Namine Madhya Charitraya Swashritanam Chapaline Jiva Duthe Sadartaya Shri Rama Prema Daine नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिसिद्धान्त सरस्वतीति नामिने श्रीवर्षभारती देवी दयिताय कृपाभये कृष्ण संबंध विज्ञान दयिने ब्रह्मवे नमः माधुर्योज्ज्वल प्रेमाढ्य श्रीरूपानुगभक्तिदा श्रीगौर करुणा शक्ति विग्रहाय नमोस्तुते नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दिनतारिणे रूपानुगनिरुद्धापो सिद्धान्तध्वन्तहारिणे नमो गौरकिशोराय साक्षान्वैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलम्भारसम्बोधे पदं भुजायते नमः नमो भक्तिविनोदाय सच्चिदानन्दनामिने गौरशक्तिस्वरूपाय रूपानुगम्बरायते गौराविर्भावभूमे स्वं निर्दिष्टा सजनप्रिया वैष्णवः सर्वभौमश्री जगन्नाथाय ते नमः वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्तो राधाकान्तो नमोस्तुते तप्तकञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जयतां सुरतो पङ्गो मम मन्दं मतिर्गति मत्सर्वस्वं पदं भोजो राधामदनमोहनो दिव्यवृन्दारण्यकल्पद्रुमनं श्रीमद्रत्नागारसिंहासनस्थो श्रीराधा श्रीलगोविन्ददेवो प्रेष्ठानिभिः सेव्यमानो स्मरामि श्रीमन्द्रसरसारम्भी वंशिवततुस्थितः कर्षन्नेरुस्वरैर्गोपी गोपीनाथ श्रीयेस्तु नः वृन्दाय तुलसीदेव्यै प्रियायै केशवस्य च कृष्णभक्तिप्रदे देवी सत्यवत्यै नमो नमः पंचतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम् जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद चेतोदर्पणमार्जनं भवमहादावग्निर्वापनं श्रेयतैरवचन्द्रिकावितरणं विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दं बुद्धिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतास्वादनं सर्वात्मा सबलं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्ण संकीर्तनम् Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama Kevalam, Haro Nastyeva, 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 Gatiranyatha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yes. How did that happen? Vaishnava Gosai.
Page 44. And it starts E-I-B-A-R-A. E-Bara.
Pronounced Ebaro.
Excuse me. E-Baro.
But it's spelled with a B-A-R-A. Prati Jane Page 40. कृपा करो वैष्णव ठाकुर.
Hridaya Dushime Vai
Guess which one?
Gita Pada Kamala Gaura Govinda Maharaj too.
Not Pada Kamala.
Gita Gurumani. Page number 61.
Or if you don't have the book, just scroll down to the most recent post by Jiva Pavana Prabhu, and there you will find the bhajan posted in the comment section of the thread, so you can follow along with us. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was extremely fond of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, as he is also a non-different manifestation of that mood of mercy. And he had a particular tune which he sang quite often, which we also sing quite often. We cannot separate it from him and the remembrance of him. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Savakare Jache Brahma
Gaurangyara Dutipada Jara Dhana Sampada.
page number Gauranga Dutipada. G-A-U-R-A-N-G-E-R-A Duti, D-U-T-I, Pada, P-A-D-A. And that should be right there on page 74, where it always has been. Bhajo Bhajo Hari Manadridha Kori, page 136. Bhajo, Bhajo, Hari, Hari, by Srila Lochan Das Thakur. Bhajo Bhajo Hari Manadridha Kori, Mukhe Bolo Taro Naam. Bhajo Bhajo Hari Manadridha Kori, Brajendra Gopi Prano Bhano Bhumano Bhano Shyamo Brajendra Nandana Gopi Prano Bhano Bhumano Bhano Haribe Yamore Toribe Vishamo Shamarake Jahar Pratape Bhuvana Kapaye Jahar Pratape Bhuvana Kapaye Na jani moro vipake Na jani moro vipake Gokula dhana paiya Punamata hoiya Apanake jano Gokula dhana paiya Punamata hoiya Apanake jano Shamane radute Dhori paye hate Bhagiya koribe jana Shamane radute Dhori paye hate Bhagiya koribe jana Vivajati sati Kibani jojati Jai Hari Radhe Bhaje Vivajati sati Kibani jojati Jai Hari Radhe Bhaje Tobe jano miya Brahmiya Brahmiya Tobe jano miya Brahmiya Brahmiya Aurora bhana rati maje Aurora bhana rati maje Solo chano bhave omrukam Vridhayi jano gelo Veda solo chano bhave omrukam Vridhayi jano gelo Hari na bhaji Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite, page 341 or 2, or if you don't have the songbook, Jiva Pavana Prabhu very kindly posts it. It's 341. He posted it in the comments section of the thread, so just scroll to the most recent post by Jiva Pavana Prabhu, and there it will be. Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Daite, Radhe Shri Radhe Jaya Madhava Daite, Radhe Govinda वृषभानुगौरी नवशशिलेखे वृषभानुगौरी ललिता सखी गुणरम्य विशाखे करुणा भरी हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। I thought it was a dog. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
गुरवे गौरचंद्राय राधिकाय तदाले कृष्णाय कृष्ण भक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्री श्रीमान् भक्तिवेदांत नारायण नित्यनामिने। नमः ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्री श्रीमान् गौर गोविंद गोस्वामी नित्यनामिने। नमः ओं विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नित्यनामिने। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं, यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणम्। First of all, I offer me Dandavat Pranam thousands of times in the dust of the lotus feet of our beloved Gurudev. Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Ashtotara Shri Srimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. In the same, thousands of Dandavat Pranam unto the dust of the lotus feet of Nitya Lila Prushta Vishnupad Ashtotara Shri Srimad Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj. And also the same, thousands of Dandavat Pranams in the dust of the lotus feet of Nitya Lila Prushta Vishnupad Ashtotara Shri Srimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And to all of our Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga. And to all Vaishnavas, past, present, and future, including all of those who are present with us today, I offer my Dandavat Pranam. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat. Dandavat Pranam.
So today, as you all know, we are observing the auspicious Avirbhav Maha Mahotsav, means the amazing celebration, festival of the appearance of Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj in this world. Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj is quite an amazing personality and quite deeply connected actually to what is inspiring both of us in our relationship with our Gurudev, in our relationship with Srila Prabhupada, in our enthusiasm on the path of bhakti. As you can tell, almost every day, if not every day, we quote him either directly or indirectly. He has played a major role in our lives. We have very sweet relationships with so many of his disciples, and we have received so much inspiration from him and also for him. So today we wanted to discuss something of his glories, although they are unlimited. And really one cannot properly glorify a Vaishnava. Even the Supreme Lord himself is endeavoring to do so, but he finds that he cannot also glorify their glories enough. But anyhow, to do so is favorable for bhakti. To do so, or to make that endeavor, as our Gurudev would always say, to try is bhakti. And by endeavoring to remember Guru, Vaishnava, or Bhagavan, by this, then all ignorance gradually will be removed from the heart, and what will come into its place? All auspiciousness. So today, on this blessed day, the anniversary of the appearance of Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj in this world, Sudevi and I want to endeavor to remember some of his glories and also some of his teachings. So Sudevi will go first. Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Do you want me to keep this, or you want to keep it with you?
You can. It's up to you.
Watch your step here.
Okay. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat.
Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, as we just heard, today is the auspicious appearance festival of Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj. When I remember Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, I remember all of the beautiful pastimes of our Guru Varg. Sometimes when we hear about Srila Narottam Das Thakur, or Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, or Rupa Goswami, we think, oh, that was so long ago. But these things, they don't happen now. Now it's different. But actually, I think we take a lot for granted. Just like the fact that not so long ago, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada, was moving and walking in this world. That person who fulfilled the prophecy of Mahaprabhu, that his name would be chanted in every town and village. He was walking and moving here. We received cookies from him. We received books from his disciples. This is an astonishing moment in time of the Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so in the same way, Srila Gaura Govinda Swami Maharaj is part of that astonishing Leela. When you read about and you hear about his life, it's really, really astonishing. What to speak of his preaching, his siddhanta, his sadachar, everything about him is absolute perfection. In the 1600s, his very, very far-off ancestor, his name was Gadai Giri. He was coming down from a mountain where he lived. I don't remember the name. But he used to sell bell metal, different metals, and he was going one day to sell this. And when he came down in the forest there, he heard something astonishing. He heard the tinkling of ankle bells. He heard a flute being played, and he heard conches being blown and all kinds of birds singing. So he went to one sadhu nearby and went and spoke to him and said, I hear these things when I walk past this beautiful jungle. And that sadhu said, you should live there. You should go to that place and you should make it your home, do bhajan there. And so he did. And it was his son that later named the village Gadai Giri, which even to this day is one of the most famous villages that is close to Jagannath Puri. All of those in this line were very great Vaishnavas, coming first around the time of Shyamananda Prabhu, very, very intimate associate of Narottam Das Thakur and Srinivasacharya. But also it is said for centuries in his lineage, all were Vaishnavas. How astonishing is that? So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, he remarks, well, first of all, he appeared in this world in 1929 in Jagannathpur, Odisha. There, when he appeared amongst Vaishnavas surrounding him. All of his family members were Vaishnavas. He himself talks about his own maternal grandfather, and he said he was a Paramahamsa. This Vaishnava, when he went to leave this world, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj said he was about 11 years old. And when his grandfather was leaving, he asked, oh, what is tomorrow? And they said, tomorrow is Advaita Saptami, or the day after. He said, everybody should come. You should call all our family, all our friends. They should come and say goodbye to me, and they should do kirtan. I've decided to leave this world tomorrow. He made the decision when he would leave. We hear how Bhishma Dev, lying on a bed of arrows, was waiting until the auspicious moment to leave this world. And so did this Vaishnava. And one question he asked, he was ready to leave, and he began to ask, is the road to Puri, to Jagannath Dev, is the road clear? Is it open? And his son looked up at the sky and saw everything open. He said, yes, the road to Jagannath is open. And then he said, then I will go. And he left his body, and all were doing kirtan. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj said that some of his very first memories were of hearing the bhajans of Narottam Das Thakur. So he grew up in a family that was very, very famous for their kirtans. They, even to this day, from Gadai Giri, are called to the Jagannath Mandir to sing for Lord Jagannath Dev. They are very, very famous. It's not hard to find them. It is said that when anyone would go looking, they would ask, where is Gadai Giri? Everybody knew where to point, where to go. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj grew up hearing Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita from his birth. And it is said that when he would sleep at night, he would hold on to Srimad Bhagavatam. It was his favorite thing to do, was to read Bhagavatam. He didn't go out and play with children. He was quite a grave, very serious child. And because there was no electricity at the time, It is said that at night, when he wanted to read, he would go in the kitchen near his mother where she was cooking on a wood stove. And because of the fire, there was light. And there he would sit very carefully and try to read Srimad Bhagavatam. He himself expressed that when he was crying and nothing could comfort him, his mother would put Bhagavatam next to him and he would immediately be pacified. When he was young, he would go with his uncles, who were the most famous kirtaniyas. But not only kirtaniyas, sometimes we hear about kirtaniyas. And kirtaniyas nowadays are people sometimes that do kirtan for money. They drink, they smoke, they do all kinds of things. And then when it's time to do kirtan, they put on tilak, they put on Vaishnava dress, and then they go and present themselves. His family members were not like those kirtaniyas. What kind of kirtaniyas were they? They were Vaishnavas. They were following, he used to say, they followed all the principles. This is actually not an astonishing thing, by the way. Our Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he says this is just coming up to the human platform, not taking meat, not taking all kinds of intoxication, not gambling, and not having illicit sex life. He said this is just coming up to the human platform of life. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj said they were always chanting on a mala. All of them had shikas, and all of them dressed in Vaishnava vesh. They were all very serious practitioners on the path of bhakti. Sometimes we think, oh, if they weren't from Gaudiya Math or they weren't from ISKCON, then maybe we won't accept them as proper Vaishnavas, because all we know is that. But actually, Vaishnavas have been in these lines, in this lineage, for how many hundreds and millions of years. Since eternity, there have been Vaishnavas. Krishna is coming again and again and again to establish religion. So his family was very, very pious. When Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj became older, he did his studies and he became a teacher. I think he was a Sanskrit teacher, English teacher. He did all kinds of teaching. But because he was so attracted to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the philosophy of Srimad Bhagavatam, of Krishna, within his classes, he would always bring in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He would bring in the teachings of Krishna, and he couldn't remove them from his teaching. Just as we hear how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, instead of teaching academics and nyayak and all kinds of heady philosophy, he began to preach bhakti. So in the same way, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj couldn't help himself. He was always incorporating bhakti. Later on, when he met his Gurudev, some of those same students became Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj's disciples, and they would tell what he was doing even in his family life. When he was 22 years old, he was married to his wife, and it was an arranged marriage. He didn't meet her before they were married. On the day of marriage, that was the first time he saw her. But his family members said that as everyone was enjoying and having fun and celebrating the marriage, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, actually his name was Bandhu.
Brajabandhu.
Brajabandhu. I keep wanting to say Bhakti Bandhu. Okay. Brajabandhu. He was sitting off to the corner, chanting on his Harinam Mala, very sad. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj never had any attraction to anything in this material world. As a matter of fact, he said something pretty shocking once. He said, I have passed stool 7 times and I have had 7 children. Wow. That was his mood. He obviously took care of his family. He was a very devoted and very beautiful Vaishnava. So we hear that Vaishnavas are better fathers, Vaishnavas are better mothers, Vaishnavas are better members of society. Vaishnavas show a greater character, a greater kind of sadachar, morality even to the world, because they are representing the Most High and they consider everything the paraphernalia of Krishna. So they become even better than others. When we see sometimes in life devotees neglecting their duties artificially, oh, this thing, I don't want this, I don't want that, and artificially giving things up, this doesn't make them better members of society. Our duty we must perform, and under guidance we will understand how to move on the path of bhakti, never on our own. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj stayed in his married life until he was in his 40s, about 44 years old. And then one night he decided, that's it. It became time for the vacation in the school that he was teaching at. And so that day, at the end of the school period, he gave his resignation. That's it. I'm leaving this place. And so he went home. And that night, in the middle of the night, I forgot what exactly he took. I think he took some paper, a pencil, a pen, and just a couple of things, necessities, but paper and pen. Gumshas. You hear this also with our Srila Prabhupada. When he was going out and doing bhiksha and begging, what was he begging for? Paper and pencils. Why? Because he needed to do all kinds of seva. Oh, one thing I forgot. This is actually very important when I was speaking about his ancestor, Gadai Giri. So, this Gadai Giri Prabhu, he really wanted one murti, one deity of Krishna, of Gopal from Vrindavan. And he used to ask every sadhu that would come or be going to Vraj, can you please bring me a deity of Krishna, of Gopal? But no one ever did. So at the same time, here in Vrindavan, one devotee had a deity named Gopal Ju. And this deity came to his sevak in a dream and said, I want you to take me to Gadai Giri. I want you to take me to this village and I want you to give me there. I want to receive the worship there. And that pujari, that sevak, I don't know if it was Gadai Giri actually. But anyway, was it? Do you know?
I don't remember.
If anybody knows, you could correct me. But anyway, one of his ancestors, I do believe it was Gadai Giri Prabhu, he wanted to worship Gopal. So anyway, Gopal came in his dream and the devotee didn't listen. He thought, oh, that was a strange dream, telling me to go all the way to near Jagannath Puri. So then he woke up and the next couple of days he did his seva to Thakurji, didn't think about it. After a couple of days, Gopal came in his dream again and said, hey, you didn't listen to me. I told you to bring me to this village, Gadai Giri, and give me there in seva. And the deity, Thakurji, started beating his sevak in his dream, in his vision. In the morning when he woke up, his body was completely sore, as if he was beaten. And he realized, Thakurji wants me to bring him there. He wants me to bring him. So he started out on foot. In those days, they didn't have such easy modes of travel. Back in the time, there wasn't any kind of train, automobiles, or planes. Vaishnavas would walk to all of the holy tirthas. Just imagine, we do Vrajmandal Parikrama or even Vrindavan Parikrama, and we are completely wasted by the end. It takes maybe 2.5, 3 hours if you're slow, and you do this whole Parikrama just of Vrindavan. You come back with blisters on your feet, or you're very tired, you can't do anything the rest of the day. But these Vaishnavas would walk from holy tirtha or holy dham to holy dham. Just imagine, on a train, it takes 24 hours just by train to get to Calcutta. And then from there, we take a taxi for 4 or 5 hours to get to Navadvip. It is not an easy travel mode. So they would walk there. So on the order of his Thakurji Gopal Ju, he went to Gadai Giri. Going there, he went to, I think Gadai Giri. And he told him, Gopalji came to me in a dream and instructed me to give him to you. And he said, I don't know what to give you in return. I can give you money, because he was the treasurer of the Jagannath Mandir. The king put this Gadaigiri, I hope I'm saying it right, but he put him in charge of the treasury of Jagannath Mandir. And so at that time he said, I can give you some money. And he said, no, I don't want money. The only thing I'm asking for is that I can continue to serve Gopal Ju and that I could be his pujari. And so he gave that deity there. They established him there. And so this was the deity. He also arranged for Srimati Radhika to come and to be there. So now it was Radha. Sometimes they call Gopinath, but Radha and Gopal Ju. So these were the deities of Srila Gaura Govinda Swami Maharaj, and he was very, very attached to them. It is said that in his diary from when he was quite young, he would never just write Dear Diary. He would write Dear Gopal Ju, Dear Gopal. He would write to his Thakurji. Right. So you can even see that from such an age, he was so dedicated. He wasn't just sitting there talking about himself, but really he was expressing his heart to his Thakurji. So when he was about 44 or so, he decided to leave in the middle of the night. He had 7 children, and his brother didn't have any. So he told his brother, I'm offering all of them to you. They are your family now. You can take them. Take care of them. He didn't leave them without anything, but he said, please care for them. And his eldest son was already an adult, so he also left his family in the care of his eldest son. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj explains that he traveled all over India to so many tirthas, to so many holy places, searching and having debates. He would debate with Mayavadis, he would discuss with so many. One thing that he was trying to understand and trying to find, actually 3 things. He wanted to find his guru. He wanted his guru to come and manifest in front of him. But he had some conditions, 3 in particular. First of all, he wanted to take sannyas. That was a given. He put on saffron cloth and he left home. He left everything. I think he even had jata. He had dreadlocks. He wasn't brushing his hair and doing all kinds of maintenance. He was a Baba. He left everything. So 3 things he was particular about and that he wanted. 1, my guru has to have great attachment to the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Number 2, he has to be very, very attached to Srimad Bhagavatam. It has to be his Shastra. And number 3, he has to be a devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. These were non-negotiable. He knew that that was his life, that was his everything. And so his guru must also be like that. So he searched and went everywhere. And he said, going to all holy places, I didn't find anyone. Finally, he decided, I will go to Vrindavan. Surely, the place of Krishna, the land of milk and honey and sweetness, there I will find my Gurudev. So he came to Vrindavan, and he was staying in a dharmashala. And one day he was near Raman Reti. That's near Krishna Balaram Mandir, our Srila Prabhupada's Krishna Balaram Mandir. Then at the time, there wasn't a mandir there. There wasn't anything. There was some construction going on because it was about 1975. So there was construction going on and there was only one room there, and that was Srila Prabhupada's. So he was going near Raman Reti. And as he was going there, he saw Western devotees. And one of them gave him a Back to Godhead magazine. And he looked at the picture and he saw Srila Prabhupada, and immediately he knew. He became so attracted and he knew, this is my guru. He's preaching the philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's his devotee. Not only that, he's teaching Srimad Bhagavatam, and his mission is the Hare Krishna mission. Those three things, automatically he knew this person can fulfill my heart's desire. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj himself, he explains that when he went to see Srila Prabhupada, it was around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, after lunchtime. He arrived there, and Brahmananda Prabhu was there. Brahmananda Prabhu. And he asked him, can I please see Swamiji? Can I see Maharaj? And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj said that without any kind of reservation or hesitation, he immediately went to Srila Prabhupada and said, oh, one sadhu has come to see you. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, definitely, immediately send him in. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj said, I wasn't a sadhu, I was just wearing saffron. That is something that we can talk about at another time. But he did not consider himself a sadhu. He considered, I'm only putting on this renunciate's cloth, but am I a sadhu? So, but then he explains, my heart was crying. My heart was crying for Guru, and everywhere I went, I did not see him. And then he was brought into Srila Prabhupada's room, and one of the very first questions Srila Prabhupada asked him was, have you taken sannyas? And then he realized, this is my Guru. Srila Prabhupada said, I will give you sannyas, I will accept you. And then I don't know if it happened immediately, but as I was reading about this Leela, it seemed as if Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was saying that Srila Prabhupada liked his Hindi. And he said, can you translate my works into Hindi? And so he said, yes. So immediately he told Brahmananda Prabhu, give him one lecture and have him transcribe it. And he told Srila Prabhupada, just so you know, my original language is that of Orissa. I'm from Oriya. And he said, so but anyway, he translated it, and Srila Prabhupada was really happy. And Srila Prabhupada said, you should keep him here, and he should do translating work. But they didn't allow him to. They told him he couldn't stay. Very, very, very many obstacles that he went through. But he didn't give up. Even though Srila Prabhupada said that he should be given translation work, that he was Vaishnava, that he is very, very near and dear. He wasn't an ordinary personality. You know, Srila Prabhupada didn't just call people in and say, okay, you can translate my work.
I'll give you sannyas.
Obviously, Srila Prabhupada was the seer, and he understood everything. But others were saying, no. What were they having him doing? Washing pots, cleaning the floor, doing all kinds of menial seva, which Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj definitely did, and then he did translating on the side. Finally, he told Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada made arrangement for him. But from the beginning, he was given so many obstacles from those around him until the very end of his manifest Leela here. And many times, things can be sugar-coated, but I don't think it should be. Only say the good things, only say that these nice things happened. No, it didn't. It didn't happen like that. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was accosted. They tried to stop him. Even his own society tried to stop his preaching. They tried to detain him and have him arrested in places like Malaysia Airport. Singapore Airport. This is no joke. These things happened, and this is the history of this Vaishnava who underwent all kinds of trials and tribulations with a mood of dedication to his Gurudev. And these are important things for us to understand and to hear about, to give us that kind of nishta. If we didn't hear about the nishta of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, people were trying to kill him. He wasn't allowed in the temples of Vrindavan. So many obstacles were coming to him time and time again. If we didn't hear these things, how would we be able to understand and appreciate all of the hard work that he underwent for us? How would we be able to understand the jewels of the inheritance that we've been freely given from him. So these things should be discussed, not in a mood of hate or animosity or poison, but look at this Vaishnava whose heart was bleeding for all of us jivas suffering in this world. And never mind, he underwent all kinds of difficulties. He did it for the service of his Gurudev, for Krishna, for Mahaprabhu, and to help us crying jivas. He himself said, I have opened a crying school in Bhubaneswar. So much to tell about him, but I don't have that much time. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada, within 3 months, gave him Harinam and Diksha and Sannyas. Now we understand that, first of all, to get Harinam, you have to be approved, you have to be in the temple for some time doing seva. It has to be a period of 6 months to a year in Sannyas. I mean, you don't just get Sannyas. So, but in a period of 3 months, Srila Prabhupada awarded all of these to him. And it is said that at the fire yajna, as the fire yajna was going on, I think
it was the opening day of Krishna Balaram Mandir.
It was the opening day of Krishna Balaram Mandir. I think Chuparari Maharaj.
There's a few different.
And a few other sannyasis were, or a few other devotees were taking sannyas. And there was one seat that was empty, and everyone was wondering, whose seat is this? Who's going to sit there? But one Vaishnava, Gaura Govinda Gaura Gopal Das, was doing the yajna, chanting all the mantras.
He already had received Harinam from Prabhupada. Then he received the name Gaura Govinda.
Yes, then he received the name Gaura Govinda. So he was doing everything. And then when it came time to receive the mantras, he got up and he sat down in the empty seat. And there was commotion. Oh, who is this? This new boy. He's a new boy. What is he doing? How does he have the qualification for this? Srila Prabhupada said, you are all new boys. He is Vaishnava from birth. He is Vaishnava from birth. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was obviously not an ordinary personality. No one coming to the path of bhakti is ordinary. Let's just be honest with that. It is said that they have undergone all kinds of austerities. They have done so much tapasya, especially to be in Vrindavan, to come and to get initiated by someone like our Srila Prabhupada. This isn't ordinary. But even beyond that, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was extraordinary.
Oh, yeah.
And Srila Prabhupada made that very, very clear. So there was some land donated to ISKCON in Bhubaneswar. At that time, in this place in Bhubaneswar, it was all jungle. There was nothing there. There was maybe a small little town, close, not very close, maybe, I don't know, he had to take like a rickshaw, not a rickshaw, rickshaws wouldn't go there. Anyway, it was a very long walk to town. And Srila Prabhupada wanted Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj to build a center there. It is said that when Srila Prabhupada went to Jagannath Puri with his disciples, he was very, very upset because he was going around the world preaching about Sanatan Dharma, that we are not these bodies. He was preaching about the glories of all of these different holy dhams, and one of them was Jagannath Puri. So when he went there, even though all of his disciples were Vaishnavas, they were not taking intoxication, eating meat, they were chanting the holy names. Again, not ordinary. And they were worshipping Lord Jagannath. But they weren't allowed in the temple. So Srila Prabhupada became very upset. It is said he became sulky. And so he enlisted his own dear son, his disciple, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, to break his sulky mood by bringing Jagannath to Bhubaneswar, where all of the devotees from all over the world could come and worship the Lord of the universe, because they weren't allowed to do so in Jagannath Puri. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, if you hear the accounts of his life and what he underwent, It is said that even rickshawwalas, nobody wanted to go to that place because there were so many dacoits, like bandits, that would rob them. There were poisonous creatures. There were snakes. It is said that one time he was sitting down giving harikatha. He was speaking. And when he stood up, when he was done speaking, a cobra fell off of his lap. He didn't even realize it was there. He was so immersed. Once we heard about Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj, completely immersed when he was chanting in front of Lord Jagannath. When a pickpocket came, he didn't even realize it. He was so completely absorbed in Krishna Kirtan. The same with Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. He was completely absorbed in Krishna Katha. He did not feel a cobra on his lap. He stood up and the thing went away. There were snakes, there were scorpions, there were wild elephants, there were tigers. All were there, and very few could stay there. We know that our own Sripad Bhagavat Maharaj, he was Bhagavat Das Prabhu. He was there for some time, but he himself admits it was too much for him. It was very, very difficult and very austere. It is said that Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj slept on a straw mat with a towel over it as like a mattress, and it even had holes in it. And when he was doing his translating of Srila Prabhupada's books, he only had a big metal trunk on which he used as a table. He had a small thatched hut, and that was it. And he had one disciple that was actually, he was ordered to make disciples, by the way, from Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ordered it, and he knew that he would be attacked for it. But Srila Prabhupada told him to try to cooperate and endure it, tolerate it.
When they question him why he thinks he has the right to make disciples, he said that, they said, where's the proof? We don't have any recording of Prabhupada or any writing. And he said, Prabhupada told me personally in my ear, what more proof do I need than this?
And this is another thing, like our Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. So many told him, don't travel, don't preach. You have no right to preach. But Srila Prabhupada told him, and there is a recording, Srila Prabhupada said, you should help my disciples. You should help them, you should nourish them. We should cooperate. So our Gurudev famously said, who should I listen to? Hundreds or even thousands of others? Or should I listen to my Shiksha Guru, Srila Prabhupada? Gurudev listened to Srila Prabhupada. Thank God. And the same with Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. Many, many, many became disturbed, but who should he listen to? His Gurudev or some popular opinion? He listened to his Gurudev. Thank God. So, there was no electricity there. There was nothing there. And so Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, he knew that Srila Prabhupada wanted to come and see the place. I'm taking so much out of this history, out of this Leela, because it's very, very long and there's so much to tell, and I want to give Kishori Mohan Prabhu a chance to speak.
I speak every night.
We are both very, very extremely attached to the lotus feet of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. So I don't want to take all the time. But Srila Prabhupada wanted to go and to see this place. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, did I say Srila Prabhupada?
You said Prabhupada wanted to see the place.
So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, he arranged that electricity be brought there. But it was like a cord, or they had to do it. It was 1 kilometer away where the electricity source was, and he had to have it run all the way to Srila Prabhupada's hut. He did that just so that, and it came the night before Srila Prabhupada came. It is said that they worked for 3 days and 3 nights to make it suitable for Srila Prabhupada to come. And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, they had to hold a lantern. He was holding a lantern while devotees were working, and they hired some help to come there and to build this for Srila Prabhupada's arrival. So when Srila Prabhupada arrives, it's really beautiful. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj says that they allowed him to get in the car because he was a sannyasi. So he thought, well, Srila Prabhupada will be chauffeured, I'll sit in front. And Srila Prabhupada said, no, I want you to sit with me. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj says, I sat next to him, but somewhat as far away as I could. He thought, how can I sit on the same seat next to my Gurudev? And then Srila Prabhupada said, no, come closer on the seat with me, next to me. So he rode all the way to Bhuvaneshwar like this. When they arrived, they saw there was only 2 little huts. And actually there were pandals that were built for the Vaishnavas to stay. He tried to make a very beautiful arrangement, what he could. He had no money. Actually, before he went to try to begin this project, he asked Srila Prabhupada, I need some money and I need some men. And Srila Prabhupada said no. He said no. And he wanted it done. But then what did Srila Prabhupada tell him? I myself went to the United States of America. I went all over the world without a penny and without men. And what did he receive? All of the blessings of our Guru Varga, of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of Nityananda Prabhu. And he will always be that personality that is most astonishingly that person who brought Krishna consciousness to the West. That is like in itself such a historical thing. Sometimes I think we become complacent. Oh, Prabhupada's book, this, that, this. Sometimes I hear, oh, this person met Param Gurudev. Yes, it's astonishing. But guess what? So many Vaishnavas met Srila Prabhupada. They met Srila, they got initiated from him. They also got association. They got cookies from him. They got, it's astonishing to meet Srila Prabhupada. No less astonishing than meeting all of these great Vaishnavas. So many times I hear that. Oh, they met Param Gurudev. Yes, that is astonishing. It's exalted and it's wonderful. But I've met so many that have also met Srila Prabhupada. I've met so many that have met Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. All of it is astonishing. We shouldn't try to put one above the other. They are all astonishing and they have all done so much service to their Gurudev. And our Srila Prabhupada does stand out very, very extraordinarily. And so, Srila Prabhupada goes to this place. And Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj arranged that there would be a nice, suitable arrangement in a very nice, air-conditioned hotel for Srila Prabhupada and the main sannyasis. And so after they had gone to the place and Srila Prabhupada looked it over, the devotee said, okay, Srila Prabhupada, let's go back. We're going to go to our hotel. And Srila Prabhupada said, no, I want to stay here. And they said, no, Srila Prabhupada, it's not suitable. It's not suitable for you. There's no amenities. There's nothing here for you. And Srila Prabhupada said, I want to stay with my son. I want to stay with my son. Wow. So for 16 days he stayed there. 16. I read today. Said 16 days. He stayed there. And sometimes they had very, very intimate talks where it was just Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada alone in a small hut together, spending time talking about things we might find truly astonishing and not be able to comprehend. Srila Prabhupada, when he went to that place, it is said that he took his cane and in 3 times he hit his cane on the ground, and his words were, this is from Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj himself, he said, I place all of my mercy here. I place all of my mercy here. I place all of my mercy here. And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj said so many things about it, but then he said, so even any rascal, they can come to this place and receive the mercy of my Guru Maharaj.
Wow.
So if we want the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we can know that we should go to the feet also of his son, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, where he underwent so much difficulty to fulfill the order of his guru. He would go daily to 21, it was his vrat, to go to do madhukari to 21 different houses. And one of his students, that was his students when he was a grihasta, became his disciple. And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj would sit on the back of his bicycle, and his disciple would bicycle him to all these different places where he would do bhiksha, where they would try to distribute their literature and try to collect anything to help build this temple. So, although there's so much more to say...
Keep going.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any question or anything anybody is correcting? Do you see anything?
No. Raghava was about to post something.
Okay. Raghava Prabhu, if you have anything, Raghava Prabhu has such an amazing story. One day I hope maybe we can have him and he can speak.
Narsingh is also there. Sylvester.
Oh, Dhamnava Pranam Narsingha Prabhu. That's the son of Sripad Bhagavat Maharaj, who was also there with Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj in the beginning. And so when you want to hear really about those early days, Sripad Bhagavat Maharaj was there, and also Narsingha Prabhu, Narsingha, he met Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, grew up seeing him, being in his company. These are very, very, very fortunate Vaishnavas. So, and Raghava Prabhu, if you hear his story, he even had to pretend to bloop so that he could go to be with his Gurudev. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj ordered him, pretend to bloop so you can come to me, because back then you had zonal acharyas. You could only get initiated from those whose zone you were in. But the heart can't live like that. Bhakti is crooked. You can't be forced to accept someone. The heart knows. The heart shows you. Truly, if you are crying from within, the heart will show you, this is my Gurudev. And that happened to Raghava Prabhu. And he was willing to become like a blooped person so that he could run to the shelter and the feet of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. And they worked tirelessly, trying to collect money to build that temple. It is said that once somebody came with so much money and tried to offer it to Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, and he wouldn't accept it. And they asked him why. Very easily you could build the temple. I think Gokul Prabhu told me this. He said that he came with like a suitcase full of money. And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj said, take it back, I don't want it. And they're like, but you have all of them working so hard. They're working day and night. You yourself want this built. It could be built like this. And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj said, why should I do it so easily? I want my disciples to get the blessings of my Gurudev. I don't want something easy. Just how Srila Prabhupada said, no, I won't give it to you. You should work for me, work for Krishna. And automatically it will all take place. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj gave that also to his disciples. And he had them working so that they could provide, and they did. They worked tirelessly to give to this mission of their Gurudev, to serve Srila Prabhupada. It's astonishing, really. The one last thing that I'm going to say before I give Kishori Mohan Prabhu 5 minutes maybe to speak is that in 1979, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj went to the disappearance Mahotsav of Srila Bhaktidaita Madhav Goswami Maharaj. He went with many different devotees, and there hundreds and thousands of Vaishnavas were wailing and weeping and chanting in kirtan in separation from Srila Bhaktidaita Madhav Goswami Maharaj. At that time, Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj began to rock back and forth, and then he began to cry out. He was calling out the names of Mahaprabhu, of Krishna, and he fainted. He started to become incoherent. And so they immediately took him from that place. Sripad Bhagavat Maharaj explains this very beautifully. I think they did a program today, and it might be that he had discussed it. If not, you can read one book, I believe it's called When Good Fortune Arises. And in there, Bhagavat Maharaj tells this history. It's really extraordinary. So they take Srila Gaura Govinda Swami Maharaj out of this celebration and they bring him back to where he was staying. In Mayapur. And they were finding that he wasn't coming out of this state. He was crying out, sometimes incoherent, sometimes he wasn't even showing any kind of external awareness. So they didn't know what to do. They brought an astrologer, and astrologer said, oh, he's, reached an exalted state of love of God. And they're thinking, well, no one's going to believe that. Then they took him to a homeopathic doctor. And even then, they didn't know. They're like, nothing's wrong with him. An Ayurvedic doctor, he's healthy. There's nothing wrong. We don't know. So one day, Bhagavat Maharaj was standing outside, I believe, on a veranda. And he saw an extraordinary Vaishnava, Akinchan Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, who is a disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and a very dear associate of our Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So he ran to him and he said, Babaji Maharaj, please come and help us. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj is having some difficulty and we don't know what it is. Can you please ascertain for us what's happening? So Srila Akinchan Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, he came in and he saw Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. He took one string from his dhoti, from his cloth, and he put it to the nose of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. And then he checked his pulse, he checked his eyes, and then he looked up really happy. He said, Bhav. He's in Bhav. This is something extraordinary. Not that he was in Bhav, because we know that he had an extraordinary birth, that his life was completely dedicated to Krishna. He was born in Bhav, most probably. I can't say that because I don't know that, but I can think that. What is astonishing is that it takes another Mahabhagavat to recognize one. And it is confirmed by many different great Vaishnavas that Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was not an ordinary personality, that he was a pure devotee of Krishna, that he was a very, very highest caliber. This is important because so many times nowadays we hear, oh, this is the great Vaishnava, this is a Mahabhagavat, that's a Mahabhagavat. These Vaishnavas were the ones that proclaimed, no, he is in Bhav. Our Gurudev himself would glorify him. We do Guru Puja to him. If you find in all Gaudiya mats, it's very rare you will see that there are devotees, even Srila Prabhupada, they don't worship. But in our mat, Srila Gurudev made it very clear that these Vaishnavas should be worshipped on their appearance and disappearance festivals, and even our Gurudev worshipped them. Obviously, Srila Prabhupada, it was his Shiksha Guru. But Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, once Srila Gurudev said, after reading The Beggar of Prem, The Embankment of Separation, I want to let you speak on this.
Just tell this part.
He said, I don't know how it is. It is as if he entered my heart, something that I kept so secretly. I never told anyone, but what was in my heart, I found written in The Beggar of Prem. And when the devotees in New Braj would do this drama, Gurudev would weep and weep profusely. So, Kishori Mohan Prabhu, if you want to speak something a little bit about Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. I didn't even touch on all of the subjects. I wanted to read some things, but
tomorrow she will speak some more.
I wanted to say that we are so fortunate. I think and hope maybe we should go over today. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj's teachings haven't been touched on. Once he said to his disciples, if you cannot quote Praman, and you do not quote evidence, and you do not quote Tattva Siddhanta, if you do not quote our acharyas in our shastra, then do not introduce yourself as my disciple. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj did not like sentimentality, and he did not accept it. He always quoted shastra. Everything he spoke was backed by praman, by evidence. And when you hear him speak, last thing I'm going to say, I promise, and then I'll let Kishori speak. When you hear him sing, he came from this illustrious line of kirtaniyas, real kirtaniyas. First time I ever heard him sing, I was sitting down and I was chanting my mantras. And all of a sudden I heard him singing to Nityananda Prabhu.
Was it from Nityananda Prabhu's appearance day?
If you want to see or witness or hear kirtan, look up Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj Nityananda Trayodasi. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I couldn't chant my mantras. I couldn't move. I got chills. I started crying and I couldn't move. I was shocked. I had never heard anything like it. Anything. In the middle of singing Nitai Guna Mani Amar, he would just scream, Haribol! And then all the devotees would start screaming, and it seemed as if he would fall out of his Vyasasan. His eyes would roll up. Even as he was speaking, it would happen. His eyes would roll up, and it would be like, where is he? Who is he? And no, I have to stop now. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to try to even come close to the glories or even remember the Leelas of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, knowing that personalities like, as you will see there, Rob Ellings, but Raghava Prabhu and Narsingha and so many that have actually had his association and got his mercy personally. Knowing that you're there, I feel so much shame speaking about his glories because I only saw him once, and because of being in my position like a Gurukuli, sitting off to the side, not really taking much interest in hearing, I sat outside when he was speaking Harikatha, but I remember his screaming, and I think that somehow touched my heart. And after that, I was able to hear, and I was able to recognize when my Gurudev came only a few short months later. So on this day, I pray to him, and I pray to his disciples to please give me their mercy, to please give me Guru Nishta, and to please give me Seva Adhikar, as Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj said, so that I can serve my Gurudev with prem. Oh. I think we should go till 8. And you have to say, what is this? Remember when he came out?
So much. I was reading the comments as Sudevi was speaking, and Raghava's like, I'm weeping, and it's very difficult to speak about Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj because he embodied and encapsulated what we were looking for within Srila Prabhupada's movement. That personality that Srila Prabhupada would speak about, that he would write about. What is a pure devotee? That person who is exclusively 100% dedicated and uncompromising. Speciality of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. He was uncompromising. He was preaching the truth always in the face of so much difficulty. Since Sudevi just mentioned how when we first saw Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, I was also one of those Gurukulis back in the day. And we were actually considered good Gurukulis. We were two of a very, very small handful who were actually living at the temple and going to the temple regularly. When I first saw Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, he was there in Los Angeles in front of the temple. Next to so many of his disciples, he looked relatively small, and I saw, this small Indian sadhu with a cluster of very fanatical Western disciples. And they were a lot more fanatical than everyone else's disciples. That thing I recognized immediately.
Like, wow, these people really have faith in their guru, like Prabhupada's disciples had in Prabhupada. And that was a little bit odd for me to see, because it wasn't something I saw so often. But with him, they were like eating every word that he was saying and like fully surrounding him, and you could feel the dedication. And I was kind of just like, okay, so here comes another one, let's see what he's about. Because I had kind of, what I grew up in, for those of you who understand it, I was not so impressed with a lot of the mundanities that were going on in the name of bhakti, growing up in it. So I went into the temple and I sat close to the speaker, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, like I normally would. And at that time I didn't really know his name, but we did Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Hari. And then he started glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. And, there was about 100 people in the temple room at that time. And he was glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. And I thought, okay, so he quoted one shlok, and then was glorifying, and then another shlok and glorifying. And it was going on 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, almost an hour of just glorifying Bhagavatam. And normally everyone's class would finish. After Jaya Radha Madhava, everyone did the shloks, the class would finish after 20 minutes. He was still going almost up to an hour. And people started getting a little antsy, a little bit nervous. People started standing up in the temple. And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj would say to them, "Where are you going?" "Well, I have to go to work." "Do you think your work will save you at the time of death?" "Bhagavatam will save you. Sit down." And I was like, my God, this person is pretty intense. And I could see, he really believes it. He has faith. It wasn't like, and then Krishna, the Supreme Personality of this. He was on fire. And I was completely surprised because I hadn't seen that. Not like that. And he had so much faith in it that he also made sure that others didn't disrespect what he was placing his faith in. And that was quite amazing to see. And then after about an hour of glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam, then he chanted the verse. And instead of only making 5 or 10, he made every single person in the temple room chant the verse. And there was another half an hour. Another person got up to go, "Where are you going?" "Well, I have to do this." I go, "Oh, what is so important? It won't save you at the time of death. It will give you death. You should sit down." And we were like, what? My God. And then he said, "Now we are coming to our subject." It was already like an hour and a half. And then he was going on for another hour. I think the total was up to about 3 hours. Anytime someone would try to move, try to get up, he would smash them. So everyone just kind of sat there scared because no one wanted to be embarrassed. But Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was glorifying Krishna and Srimad Bhagavatam with so much faith and conviction. The impression I received in my heart at that moment was, this person is the real deal. In terms of he believes in what he is connecting to. I didn't have an understanding of guru or anything. At that time, I was so dense as a brick. And then that brick's density of a brick. So as dense could be, I couldn't understand anything. But I was going regularly to the temple, going through the motions, doing kirtan, doing the programs. And then Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, of course, he had this very interesting habit of picking out one person in the audience and somehow very heavily removing millions of lifetimes of their anarthas. And he would pick on whoever was pretty much in front and just, I've seen people try to copy him since, but they didn't have the same effect. When he would do that, that person's heart would open, he would remove their anarthas, and that person would want bhakti. Others who would try to copy him, they would lose like 50% of their audience in terms of, anyone who might be interested. They wouldn't come back again. They would say, "Oh, I don't like the way I was treated." But with Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, people would come back again. Except for me.
They would fight to sit up close.
But these weren't his disciples that he was picking on. These were people who were around for many years, but who would become lazy or complacent in bhakti. So he was hammering them with truth. And he would, let's just say the speakers in the Los Angeles temple were 2 meters high by 1.5 meters wide, and there was 2 of them. And so when Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, he didn't even need a microphone, but when he had the microphone and those speakers, it was powerful. And so the next day, I sat back a little further, and he did the same thing. Hours of full absorption, and I still wasn't able to appreciate properly. The next day, closer to the door. The next day, I was outside. The next day, across the street. But I was still listening, but I was just like, it was so loud, and I wasn't able to appreciate properly. And I don't know why it happened like that, but I remember feeling appreciation for him, but it was too intense for me to handle. I wasn't able to handle that kind of intensity. A couple years later, he was coming to Santa Cruz. And that time my father contacted me and he asked, actually I think I was visiting at the time. He said, have you heard of Gaura Govinda Maharaj? I said, yeah. He said, he's coming to Santa Cruz. What do you think? Should we go hear him? And I said, well, I've been in his classes before. He's quite intense, but I feel that he's the real deal. I think, yeah, we can go listen to him. So we went to Markandeya Prabhu's house to hear Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj speak. But I warned my father, be careful. He picks on anyone in the audience and just hammers them. So whatever you do, don't sit in front. You should sit behind any big person. I believe 2 big persons were in the room at that time. I believe one was Chiranjeev Prabhu and the other one was Kishori Prabhu. So he picked one, I picked the other, and we hid behind them. And this was at the house of Markandeya Prabhu. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was there. It was San Jose, I think. Santa Cruz or San Jose. And he started giving his class. And luckily he didn't pick on me or my father, but he began picking on poor Markandeya Prabhu. Markandeya Prabhu! Oh, enjoying so much, trying to be like just picking on him and hammering, but really heavily. And we were like, whoa. The Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was very, very cutting. This is what Sri Guru does. With the sort of transcendental knowledge, he cuts at our knots of attachment to this material world. Vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarva sankshaya kshiyante chasa karmani drishte bhakmanishvare. And what does he put in place of that? Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, if you read his lectures, if you hear his lectures, what he was speaking and how he was speaking, we didn't hear like that from anyone else. He was flowing with Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. He was flowing with Srimad Bhagavatam. He was flowing with all Shastras. And even obscure Shastras, shlokas were coming. All evidence was coming. And he had understanding of all of the moods of what is Rupanuga and what he was trying to give. Because it was unfamiliar to many persons. And because he was becoming so popular, others felt threatened. And that's why, as Sudevi said, they tried to stop his preaching. In fact, there came a vote about Jiva Tattva. What was the vote? Because in Prabhupada's books, in some places, many places, it says the Jiva came originally from Krishna Loka. And in other places it says the Jiva never ever falls from Vaikuntha. So, and it's about equal. I think maybe one more time, 51% he came from Krishna Loka, 49% he never falls from the spiritual world. So they actually took a vote. And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj is like, you can't vote on tattva just because one is 51% and the other one is 49%. It's not a democratic vote. We should understand through the medium of Shastra. What is Shastra Praman? What is Srimad Bhagavatam saying? Sometimes, according to time, place, and circumstance, things are said in certain ways. There's apara vichar and tattva vichar, the apparent conception and the essential, foundational, tattvic, siddhantic conception. And he said, Vaishnavas are not
apara vicharis. We don't follow apparent vichar. Apparent vichar means the consideration, oh look, the moon is on the branch. That doesn't mean the moon is on the branch. It looks like the moon is on the branch. But what is the tattva? The moon is so far away. So he said we don't vote on tattva. So because he was very strong in his positions on tattva siddhant, in his understandings of all of these things, and also so many didn't understand that he had 17 or 16 days of very intimate, private time with Srila Prabhupada, where so many things were discussed, like with Rupa Goswami and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Dashashvamedha Ghat, with Sanatana Goswami and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So much personal interaction was there, where so many deep esoteric truths were shared. So these conceptions, beside the fact that he is a pure devotee, Vaishnava, from birth, and how he lived his entire life impeccably, but because of this, what is it? He was very attractive, charismatic is the word I was looking for. So many were so attracted because of his own nishta, his own conviction. Srila Gurudev said that one should glorify another person in terms of their nishta, or their conviction in their Gurudev. And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj embodied the mood that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada described. In fact, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj himself paraphrased it and spoke it from his own heart. That if I have to become proud, if I have to become a beast, if I have to go to hell to serve my Gurudev, to fulfill his order, then very gladly I will do so. There is not one conception, not one anything that I will accept if it is slightly different or twisted from the teaching of my Gurudev. I will hold on to that teaching of my Gurudev, no matter what. In the face of all opposition of this world, there is nothing more powerful than a particle of dust from the lotus feet of my Gurudev. And I know that by one particle of dust, millions of people of this world can be delivered. So anyone can try to bend me this way or that way, but my conviction of my Gurudev is such that I will hold on no matter what. And this unprecedented Guru Nishta, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj had in his Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And you see how he was endeavoring to uphold the dignity of the teachings of his Gurudev. Today I read something Pujapad Bhagavat Maharaj posted, how Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was staying true to the English translation of Srila Prabhupada from the Sanskrit. Now, if you were to take the Sanskrit and directly translate it over into Uriya, the language of Orissa, it would be very different. But Srila Prabhupada instructed Gaura Govinda Maharaj to translate his English books to Uriya. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was staying true to the word and the instruction of his Gurudev. But these meanings that were in the translation were so obscure and also so brilliant that you couldn't find it in any normal Sanskrit dictionary. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj's Sanskrit guru, from when he was younger, was well renowned in all of India and had one of the best libraries of Sanskrit literature, Sanskrit books and translating from Sanskrit to English and other languages. So he brought the words, the teachings of Prabhupada, and had him check his work. And this personality in the beginning wasn't quite convinced. He was looking at it and it didn't seem right, but Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj had this very strong conviction that what my Gurudev gave is true and correct to the deepest level. And so he kept pressuring this Sanskrit scholar, teacher. And eventually that Sanskrit scholar teacher, through so much research, he went and he found these very deep, obscure, and most brilliant, amazing meanings from the English to Uriya. Actually, it was from the Sanskrit to the English that it was correct. And so, although it didn't appear to be correct, being translated from English to Uriya, it was correct in its fullest degree. And this was the faith that Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj had in the words of Srila Prabhupada, that they are full, they are pure. Any other current of consciousness, I will punch out with my fist. I will kick it out. Any other thing, any
twisting anything that's just trying to go against the teachings of my Gurudev. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, without computers, without all kinds of modern amenities, personally translated almost all of Srila Prabhupada's books from English into Uriya, with pen and paper, personally translated like that. What kind of dedication. And at the same time, he was collecting and beginning and accepting disciples and collecting to make a temple, always endeavoring to serve the lotus feet of his Srila Prabhupada.
It's a little different topic, but I was wondering if you could tell what I read to you about prasadam. I thought that was really interesting.
I don't remember.
The regular devotees prasadam?
Oh, very quickly. One little anecdote Sudevi wants me to share. So, there was once a time when the devotees brought Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj a beautiful plate of prasadam with so many preparations. And in there, two of the bowls that were placed on his plate, like a thali, was the sabjis that were made for the rest of the devotees. And they noticed that Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, when he went to take prasadam, removed those two bowls and kept them to the side, and he wouldn't take them. And he was just taking the rest. And they asked him, why did you remove those two bowls? He said, because they weren't made with love. They were not made with love, with affection. The rest was made with affection and intention that we are serving our Gurudev, but that was just cooked without affection or love.
And he recognized it.
He recognized it immediately, but I think the import of it is that just because one is cooking for the devotees, it does not mean that they shouldn't cook with love for Thakurji. That these devotees are also the disciples. They are part of my Gurudev, so we should treat them as such. Not that we just make shlop for the devotees and wonderful, beautiful preparations for Gurudev. This is not service to Gurudev, and he was teaching it through that medium. So I want to go back to the other subject. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, I wanted to mention how he was instrumental in me coming to my Gurudev, and it was quite magical. My father, I needed some money to come to India in 1996. And my father, I approached him because I was short a couple of $100. So I asked if I could have some money. And he asked me what for, and I said, oh, so I can go to India, I need a couple $100 more. He said, okay, on one condition. I said, okay, what is it? He said, when you go to India, you should offer your pranam. Go visit Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, offer your pranam and hear from him. And Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Maharaj, offer your pranam and hear from him. And I was feeling like, okay, I can do that, no problem. So my dad gave me an extra 300, just to seal the deal. And then when I was in India, I completely forgot. I didn't even think about it. I had no intention of following through. But I became very, very sick. I was in Mayapur at the ISKCON Mayapur Navadip Parikrama 1996. This was just after Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj departed. And I got so sick I couldn't go on one of the parikramas. Nothing. I was just lying in the tent with the most horrible lung infection and whatever. I don't know what it was. I was completely exhausted, just sleeping all day. And then I ended up shifting to another location closer to where my party was. We traveled in a group and where some of those devotees could help to look after me. So I was staying in a tent outside. And then as I was in this tent, it was in the shade now, one boy, his name was Krishnadas. He comes to the tent and he's like, Haribol, Haribol. And I was like, Haribol. And he's like, I'm looking for a place to stay. Can I stay here with you? And I said, well, I'm really sick. There's a little room, but I don't know if you want to stay here. He said, that's fine. So let me just get my stuff. So he brings his stuff and then he leaves. And then 5 minutes later, he comes back again. And he has a book of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. That book is called Sri Guru Vandana. And honestly, I was not much of a reader. I think up until that time, the only book I read through and through was the one for children, the Kaliya one, which my parents made me read. I mean, through and through. But since I was in a sick way and I had nothing else to do, no mobile phone, no television, no anything else, just this book, Sri Guru Vandana, with big fat writing. I thought, okay, why not? So I was lying there sick. He went on parikrama, this boy, and I read this book from cover to cover. And it was something like a little bit of a chisel breaking that brick, that stone-like mentality. Some crack was made from that book. And then that same boy came back later on and he said, you know, if you want, now this boy offered, if you want, I can get us in to see Srila Puri Maharaj and Srila Narayan Maharaj. He offered it from himself. And I was like, why is he offering that to me? How does he know? Now he had the most generic name in the world for a devotee, Krishna Das. Jivera Surupahaya Krishna Nitya Das, Krishna Das. So this boy makes this arrangement for 5 of us Guru Kulis to go and see Srila Puri Maharaj and Srila Narayan Maharaj. And then when Gurudev is asking us questions, why did you come? Do you have any questions? And then he asks us a question. What is the reason for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance in this world? None of us could answer this question except for this new boy who had only been a devotee for 1 year. And before that, who knows where he was? 1 year. And he was younger than all of us, and we were all very proud Guru Kulis, and this boy was new. But, yeah, I knew all the shlokas of Brahma Samhita. What did this kid know? But he had had association with Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. So when Gurudev came to him and asked the question, what did he say? And Gurudev said, what is the reason for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance in this world? All of us Guru Kulis could not answer it. We were born and raised with it. He comes to this one, and this one says, to taste the moods of Srimati Radharani. And Gurudev said, yes. And then he looked me straight in the eyes and said, if you do not know all of these truths, how can you preach? And I was just like, so from Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, by his mercy, through his book, and that disciple of his, I was brought to Gurudev literally less than 3 weeks after the disappearance of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. Less than 3 weeks after. So I felt always very closely connected to him, that he brought me to my Gurudev through the medium of that Harikatha. One thing I wanted to share, and this was quite important. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was always preaching about sadhu sangha, but what is really the nature of guru? Nikunja yuno ratikeli siddhyaya yali viryukti rapekshaniya, that Sri Guru is Radha Priya Sakhi, means the dearmost maidservant of Srimati Radhika. And so at that time in ISKCON there was a kind of a big debate, because Srila Prabhupada had many times expressed some kind of sentiments that he liked Sakya Bhav, he liked cowherd boy, he would say certain things. And even in his bhajan, he said, Katavane chutachuti vane ka lutaputi, Sayyidina kave have more. So he was saying certain things. He established Krishna Balaram temple, so many things like that. So the devotees of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj came to him. And one of them was also Shuddhadvaiti Maharaj. And he asked, they actually asked because they were saying that Srila Prabhupada is he a cowherd boy or a gopi? Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was emphatic. No, he's not cowherd boy. He is a gopi. He is a gopi, like this. And I heard directly from Gokul, and I think it was Jagadish and another devotee. Who was the other third one who was present? Was it you, Raghava? I can't remember. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, when he was with Srila Prabhupada in the hut, at that time Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj came out one evening and was just telling these devotees. So they were sitting there, and it was just 3 of them. Jagadish, Gokul, and one other. And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was speaking to them. He said, you know, when I was with Srila Prabhupada in the hut, at that time I was praying, I was begging, and I was praying in my heart, please reveal your Svarup to me. It means who you are in Krishna Lila. Please reveal your Svarup to me. And then he said, for so long I thought that he did not hear me, that he could not hear my prayer. And then he leaned forward and said, but he did. And then with emphasis, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj would tell his disciples that Srila Prabhupada is a gopi. So how do we understand what is the pure devotee? One way we can understand from some of the indications that that pure devotee himself gives. But really, our position is not like this, but we should understand das, das, anudas, that one who can see that truth can reveal that truth to us. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj very emphatically revealed this truth of the position of Srila Prabhupada as a maidservant of Srimati Radhika in Vrindavan.
Actually, Narada Muni Das, in the one that you're speaking of in the book, this was a different one. When Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj came out to get water, they were all asking, because I think Sripad Bhagavat Maharaj was saying, the devotees asked him, are you like Veda Vyas because of all the books you've written? And Srila Prabhupada just smiled, that would be nice. You know, that sounds good. Are you a coward boy? Oh, I like sakas, but he wasn't saying anything. And then one day he went to drink water, and I'm pretty sure it was Sripad Bhagavat Maharaj. They were talking about him being in Sakya Bhav.
Srila Bhakti Maharaj was there that time.
Yes. And so then he stood up from drinking. He would drink water sitting. He stood up and he looked at him and he said, no, he is a gopi. He is a gopi. So that was a different time. And Raghava Prabhu is also saying here that another time also he heard this story.
Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was always preaching about sadhu sangha and the necessity for real, pure, high-class association of Vaishnavas. Sometimes people would say, oh, we don't need anything else, we have Prabhupada's books. And he would say, oh, is the book going to instruct you? Are you going to follow? Are you able to follow? Is the book going to slap you? He said, what is a disciple? A disciple is one who voluntarily places himself in a position where severe discipline can be inflicted upon them by Guru. Guru can take your ear, can smack you, can call you foolish. Stupid nonsense. He would say, stupid mind, stupid mind. He was cutting so many millions of anarthas from the hearts of his disciples. He was cutting so many millions of anarthas from the hearts of his disciples. One thing I want to share before I continue speaking about this. Sudevi, myself, and another devotee were with Srila Gurudev Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj in Singapore. And this was in the house of, it was Gupta's place, on the 17th floor of that white high-rise. And there Srila Gurudev said something quite interesting to us. And I think it's appropriate to tell here and now. He said, before, I was fine. Devotees would come to me, I would instruct, I would give them help as they felt appropriate, as they needed. He said, but after the departure of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, when so many of his disciples came to me crying, saying how he was being mistreated. In fact, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj said himself, I cannot say anything. It's like they have a sword over my head and at any moment they can drop it. So he was being, they were trying to stop him from preaching, from speaking the truth, from following the order of his spiritual master. And so he felt this very intense pressure. So the disciples of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj were well aware of this. And many came to our Gurudev after his departure, weeping and telling how they were trying to block him here. He was banned from going to this place and that place. Today I read from Jagadish Prabhu that he was banned from Sydney and from Los Angeles for being a follower or a disciple of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. Because, as I told you, they were very fanatical. They are still so fanatical, and they have such conviction in his instructions and at the dust of his lotus feet. So yes, there was this kind of mood which was very intense, and it still is to this day. So our Gurudev said, before I was comfortable being where I was, but after I heard how they were mistreating him, how they were blocking him, and how they were offending him, he said, I could no longer sit still. I had to come out. I had to do something. He said, I could no longer sit still. So this in itself is showing that Gurudev had so much faith and conviction that with Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj present there, he didn't need to do anything. But after Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj's departure, in fact, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj himself, when he spoke to our Gurudev, and many of his own disciples can confirm this, that he said it to them in front of them as well, that I don't know if I should stay or go. Let me ask Gopal. Gopal Ju, he also asked that. He mentioned it to our Gurudev. I don't know how long I will stay. Maybe I will leave soon. And so, as any transcendental personality, and he can plan his own departure. So, he mentioned this to our Gurudev and also asked him to help his disciples. Because if he's being blocked, and his preaching is being blocked, then how are his disciples going to be helped? How will their nishta in their guru be increased? Right? It's not really possible if he's being blocked and his conceptions are being blocked. So where can that be nourished? That is up for the disciple to seek out. And how do they seek out? Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj said, not by your eyes, not even by your ears, but by your sincerity. That one should cry to Krishna for help. That I'm burning in this frying pan of a material world and I need help. He said if we try to find with our eyes, we will be cheated. We cannot detect through any material medium. But if we are sincere and we're weeping from the core of our heart, then Krishna, this is the responsibility of Krishna to send his own man. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj would say that one should weep and cry to Krishna, please send me your own man. I'm burning here. He said, if your head is on fire, could you sit still? Could you sit still? No, you'd be screaming, give me water, give me water. And you would run for that. So if someone is burning in separation from their Gurudev, then they require water. That water needs to come from the same source. That is Shabda Brahma. Maybe it's a different tap, a different plug in the wall, but the same electricity is flowing through. In the same way, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was always instructing his disciples that one must always take association from senior Vaishnavas, from those who can give you that nectar. And how to attain that is by weeping and crying. As Sudevi said, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj said, I am opening a crying school. And we have seen how his disciples would weep and how he himself would weep. This kind of crying is necessary. But Srila Gaura Govinda, oh my God, it's 8 o'clock. Hare Krishna. I didn't even realize it.
I wanted to tell how he left. I didn't even get. Can you?
No, you should. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, his conviction, his dedication, his mood of nishta and service at the lotus feet of his Guru Maharaj, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, his life of dedication is exemplary all the way through. He is, sometimes we hear that Srila Prabhupada said, what is the use of so many twinkling stars? Only one moon is sufficient. And really when you look at Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, you see that moon-like character. I think it was Raghava or someone who just posted there that when Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was there in Bhubaneswar serving Srila Prabhupada, somebody, was it Bhagavat Maharaj, saw him. He was glowing so brilliant and bright like the moon.
Narsinga said that when he came out of the hut, he was glowing like the sun or the moon.
You know, when Prabhupada is stamping his cane there,
my mercy is here.
I see it as here. He's not going to stamp his cane into Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, but it means in the form of this personality. In that sadhu, my mercy is here. My mercy is here. That's where you could drink what he wanted to give. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was continuing what Prabhupada wanted to give. How he gave all of those essential things, Raga Nuga Bhakti, Rupa Nuga Bhakti, in such a clear and concise way. It is undeniable. And when I came to my Gurudev, I didn't have an appreciation for Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj before, like I developed after coming to my Gurudev. Why? Because what my Gurudev gave me, then I saw everything was in Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, embodied fully. And I was like, my God, wait a second. It is the same substance. You can say the same wine in a new bottle, as our Gurudev would say. He was giving that same thing, only my Sukriti, or my heart, was not awakened enough to be able to drink from that source fully. But after coming to my Gurudev, after meeting with so many of the disciples of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, after my Gurudev glorifying Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj and engaging us in worshipping and glorifying Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, showing how close they were by heart, that they were able to enter into each other's hearts and reveal those same treasures. What a beautiful conception. Maybe only one meeting that we know about. Our Gurudev told, Pujapad Bhaktivedanta Madhav Maharaj confirmed with so many details. One meeting that we know about. But what is the mood in their heart? They know each other intimately. They're serving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Radha and Krishna intimately. But even on this level, how deep is the mood in their heart? So through the mercy of my Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Swami Maharaj, and also through the mercy of the disciples of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, and for me, is actually also from Sudevi, because she was chanting her mantras as she told, and she was just like, she couldn't concentrate on her mantra. She was like, who is that? Who is that? What is that? It's like, Nityananda! It was shaking, and she started shaking. She was like, who is that? And then she just started devouring his literature. Anything she could get about him, she went crazy for him. It was so powerful, so potent. And so by her awakening, she became awakened to Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. Gradually, I started developing more and more appreciation. And now we consider ourselves fanatical, crazy persons for him as well. So Sudevi wants to share one last thing before we continue with more tomorrow, because apparently one day is not enough. Oh no, Sudevi has so much to say.
Do you want me to just read what I was going to read, or tell?
Tell and then read.
Okay. Well, if you have other things that you need to do that are really pressing, you can watch this later, but I think we're going to go over. I wanted to share this because I think it's a very extraordinary leela in the life of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. So our own Vaijanti Mala Didi and Chandrika Didi, Vaijanti Mala Didi is here, and usually every year we ask her to tell this. Even though she tells it every year, she gets shy. She's like, I've told it so many times. But we like to hear this because it really shows what is in the heart of our Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj. So, Vaijanti Mala Didi and Chandrika Didi, they went and they wanted to speak to Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, and they wanted to ask him some questions. And there were questions about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Jagannath Puri, but also the mood about Krishna and going back to Vrindavan. And so it is said that Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was he was having so many meetings with the GBCs, and he wasn't feeling so happy. But when he heard that some senior Vaishnavis had come and they had some questions, he began to speak Krishna Katha. And as he began to speak, he became more and more excited. And if you read The Beggar of Prem, and it's called The Embankment of Separation, you will find in there, really it's the story of Tilak to begin with. It talks about Rohini Maya and how she was telling about the glories of the Brajabasis, and it's the story of Jagannath. But then he also begins to tell how Krishna goes back to Vrindavan. So as Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was telling this katha, and how Baladev and Subhadra went ahead to prepare the Brajabasis, not because they wouldn't believe that Krishna was coming, but Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj explains because the Brajabasis wouldn't want Krishna to see them suffering in that separation, and Krishna wouldn't be able to handle it. So they went there to tell them, Krishna's coming, he's on a chariot, he's on his way. And then when they saw the Brajabasis in their overwhelming prem, they became these forms. Their arms went in, their eyes became wide, they melted in prem. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was telling this katha, and he was breathing very heavily. He was continuing to speak to them. And then he told how Krishna came, and he came to Srimati Radhika, and seeing her lying there, Vishaka and Lalita Sakhi were trying to wake her. Krishna has come, he is here. But Srimati Radhika was senseless. At that time, Krishna, seeing her prem, began to melt in his own prem for Srimati Radhika. His eyes became very big and he got a huge smile on his face. His arms came in and he took the form of Jagannath. And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj began to say that the fragrance of Krishna's body entered the nostrils of Srimati Radhika. And as she smelt his fragrance, she opened her eyes and she saw her Brajendra Nanda and Shama Sundar. Krishna was in front of her. Eye to eye union. Eye to eye union. And at that time, he could no longer speak. And he started to apologize. Forgive me, I cannot go on, I can't speak. And then he began to say, do kirtan, kirtan karo, do kirtan, do kirtan. So immediately they took the devotees out. And Vaijanti Maladiri said that they thought at first that maybe they had given him some poison. Some people thought they poisoned him. They didn't know what to think because before he was okay, and all of a sudden he was speaking this Leela, and then he became senseless. And it was very quickly after there that Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj left. And I wanted to share that because also like our Srila Prabhupada, we see that to the very end he was giving. Srila Prabhupada couldn't even barely move, but he was speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, even though he was disgusted with this world, disgusted with the changes in Siddhanta, and so much opposition, when he had the chance to give Krishna, when he had the chance to speak about really what he wanted to speak, life came to him. And that was the be-all and end-all of his life was Krishna Katha. From the beginning, how we heard in Gadai Giri, how he was growing up, hearing the songs and the bhajans of Narottam Das Thakur, falling asleep with Srimad Bhagavatam on his chest, to the very end where he was telling this most intimate katha of how finally, after so long, eye to eye union, eye to eye union. So Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj was giving everything. And I know that myself and Kishori Mohan Prabhu, every time we would associate with his disciples, we would become more and more enlivened. And we would become so excited that we would spend hours at a time with Raghava Prabhu, with Gokul Prabhu, and we would just sit and speak and weep, talking about the glories of Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj. Even Bhakta Swarup Prabhu from Holland, whenever we meet together, this is what we would just spend hours speaking about. Jagadish Prabhu. He would invite us over to his place for lunch in Australia, and we would just glorify and hear about Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj. His glories are unlimited. One devotee told us that when he came out of that state of bhav, for months he was like this. It wasn't just, a few hours and then he came back. For months, he was in and out of this consciousness where he could speak, where he could only be in bhav. He was not external. And then when he came back and he was actually about to go out and preach again, it is said that he looked down and he saw his body and he started screaming, "What is this? What is this?" Who knows who he is, what he was seeing, how he was serving, what he was experiencing, and then coming back and seeing, what is this? Now I'm here like Raghunath Das Goswami, sometimes in Siddha Bhav, sometimes in Manjari Bhav, and sometimes in Sadhak Roop. How he was confused. What am I doing here? What is this? Why am I here? Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, why would you bring me back? There I was having darshan of Radha and Krishna and you brought me back here. What have you done? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was like this also. So we see the same mood in Srila Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj. You wanted to say one?
No, that.
Oh, you wanted me to tell that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to end tonight. So I'm a nectar collector.
That book is all handwritten with nectar.
I can't really show you, but here. Okay, so no, don't worry. So in my nectar book, I have some passages from Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj that I felt were personally meant for me. And I'm going to share them with you because they have helped me so much in my being able to call out and to pray. So here is one of them. You are a crooked person. Be simple. If you say just once with an open heart, Krishna, I'm yours, immediately Krishna will accept you. He is in your heart, but you can't cry out to him. Your heart is filled with such filth, such duplicity and crookedness. You are never simple, and Krishna knows it. Guru can catch hold of your ear and slap you. You rascal, what are you doing? The Guru has that right, and you have to accept it because he is Guru. You cannot sue him in court. If someone grabs you and slaps you, you can sue them. But you cannot sue Guru because you have voluntarily accepted it. I have become your Shishya. I accept you as my Guru. Please inflict severe discipline on me. Thereby your attachments will be cut off. Whatever severe discipline Guru inflicts upon you, accept it gladly, without grumbling. Then strong attachment will be cut off. Thereby he is lifting your anchor, which is now stuck very deeply in the mud. Then he will roll the boat amidst all sorts of obstacles and dangers. But you have to accept his discipline. We see this in the character of the disciples of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. So many devotees, when you would hear him speak, it would be frightening. Because when he wasn't on the Vyasasan, we hear how he was very meek, very humble, very soft, very gentle. And his mood was very sweet and loving. And when he was on the Vyasasan, he was ripping out the disciples' anarthas, and he was cutting all the knots of attachment to this world. If someone went to him, oh, Gurudev, I'm attracted to pornography. In the temple, in front of everybody, I don't remember if it was Premji. Pornography, looking at pornography, liking this thing, Premji. And he would weed it out of them. But the disciples weren't afraid of it. They would run to him and they would show, this is my sickness. Gurudev, help me. Inflict severe discipline on me. And Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj would take his cane and he would hit them. He would yell at them. He would rip their anarthas out of their hearts. Those persons like me would probably hide really far from that. But they would fight to sit up close. You see that. You see that even devotees would say that generally when you go to any Hari Katha, you see the devotees will sit all over the temple in different spots, some leaning against the wall. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj's disciples would all try to sit as close as possible, within inches from him. Give me your mercy, Gurudev. Focus that mercy on me. Why? Because I am stuck here. My anchor is so deeply stuck in the mud, and you can lift it out. Lift these anarthas out of my heart. This is the kind of shishya we should be. This is the kind of discipleship we should pray for. I will accept that severe discipline. Now we think, oh, I can't give up a simple thing for Chaturmasya. I can't do all these simple little things that my Gurudev told me. But these devotees, just as we glorify the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, I know so many disciples of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj who were running in the streets, doing everything, going door to door to door, selling paintings, doing everything they could to fulfill the mission of their Gurudev, Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, to fulfill the mission of his Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada, to fulfill the mission of his Gurudev and our entire Guru Varga. They are all pleased when we accept this severe discipline and try to give our lives and to surrender to Guru. There was one quote that I wanted to quote from Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, and it was about not changing the words of our Gurudev. He was very strong on that, but I don't know where it is. But it's so beautiful. He's saying we shouldn't change the words of our Gurudev. Don't deliberate. Don't try to manufacture. When Gurudev says something, especially when he is sitting on the Vyasasana, he is representing all of Guru Tattva. It's not his opinion. He's not giving his own advice. He is giving Sanatan Dharma. He is giving Krishna. He is not giving any kind of cheating. Sometimes when it's a personal dealing, oh, how is your son? Oh, you should try to find a job. He will deal with us on a personal basis. But when Guru is there and he is giving Krishna Katha, this is not an ordinary thing. And you would see when Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj would speak, his Vyasasana would shake. And it would seem as though he was going to fall off of it. He was completely absorbed. He was completely absorbed. So I would not advise, but maybe recommend that if you can go online and you can see him, see the way he's giving that Harikatha, so enthusiastic, and he is quoting from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I don't know how it is, but no matter what he would sing, his disciples, like Raghava Pandit, all of them, they would just start singing along. They would know everything. All of the verses, you hear it. They would find it and they would sing along. Everybody was so enthusiastic. You could feel it. You see it. So go online and see him. Watch him singing to Nityananda Prabhu on Nityananda Trayodasi. You will never be the same. You will be changed forever. So tonight we're ending our Pushpanjali to Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. Thank you so much, Vaishnavas, for giving us this opportunity, for giving us the chance to try to remember such a personality who is also so close to our hearts. Today when I was reading about Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, I was remembering the beggar of Prem and how Gurudev reacted to it, and how our Gurudev said that he entered his heart. And it showed me that they are of one heart. It doesn't mean that they have to be physically together, but the essence, what they are carrying in their heart, is the same thing. And Gurudev was saying that what I was carrying in my heart, what I was meditating on, I found there in the words of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj. So we can know that they are of one heart, that they are in the same line, that they are non-different. As Kishori Mahaprabhu already said, same wine, new bottle. So thank you so much for joining us, for giving us this opportunity, for encouraging us, and for forgiving us for our baby-like attempt to try to glorify such a personality as Srila Gaura Govinda Swami Maharaj, and to his disciples and followers who knew him, who surrendered to him, who served him. Please, please give us your mercy and your blessings.
Srila Gaura Govinda Swami Maharaj ki jai. Is that focusing properly? There we are. Oops. There we go. It's a beautiful picture of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaura Premanande, Hare Hare, Shri Gurudev ki jai, Shri Gaura Govinda Swami Maharaj ki jai, Tadi Avirbha Mahamahotsav ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Prem Purushottam Sachinandan Hari ki jai, Radha Bihari Ji ki jai, Radha Ji ki jai, Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Hari Rama Sankirtan ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Shri Gaura Govinda Maharaj ki jai. So thank you all very much for being with us and giving us this beautiful opportunity to remember some of the glories and some of the moods and teachings of Srila Gaura Govinda Swami Maharaj, and to remember the instructions, not to remove, to remember the teachings and instructions of our Gurudev and our Guru Varga, and for engaging us in our Guru Seva. Just by remembering the teachings of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj and remembering his nature, his qualities, and his pastimes, it brings such a conviction to the heart of an aspiring sadhak. So these days, especially of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj's appearance and disappearance, really are very powerful reminders for us. And I look forward to any time remembering Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj in the company of other persons who have affection and enthusiasm, affection for and enthusiasm from him. So thank you very much. We look forward to being with all of you tomorrow. Please forgive us for the extra long 1 hour over time.
Also, I just read I wasn't supposed to speak about his disappearance on his appearance, so please forgive me for that.
I don't know if that's true, because after the disappearance day of any personality, you naturally remember every one of their
But maybe it
pastimes.
brings us too much of a separation, Pav. So anyway, if I did wrong, please forgive me. My mood was to show how from beginning to end, he was continuously trying to give Krishna. But I will remember that for next time. Thank you, Raghava Prabhu.
So, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radha Vihari Ju ki
Jai.
Shashi Nandam Gaura Hari
Ki Jai.